4 more superpowers that we can all have, and they are free. And that's what they are, F-R-E-E. They're free to have these superpowers. The first superpower is fun. Fun. Now, you say, well, I was going to use the word joy, but, we use the word fun. And it's a good kind of fun. It's not fun at somebody else's expense or fun you have to buy in a bottle. It's the fun because you walk with God and He is good and good things are coming even when you have hard times. It says in Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is your strength. That was when they came back from the captivity and the book of the law was read out to them and they got the walls done, and some people started remembering all the bad things. Said, no, today's a day of celebration. The joy of the Lord is your strength. And Paul, when he was in prison, and especially we look in the book of Philippians, he said, rejoice in the Lord. Be it joy. And let me say it again, rejoice. And this is when he was in prison. It strengthens us to have joy, to have fun. And in this world, there is a lot of non-joy, a lot of hardness, and a lot of suffering. And we know that, and we've had it happen in our lives too. But we need to have some joy and some fun and influence people with that. Now, my wife was full of joy. This one, she wanted to live because she loves life and she loved people and being with people. And she made everything more enjoyable where she was. If you know her, and most of you do, it was more enjoyable when she was there. That was just her philosophy of life. Not that she didn't have sad times. She loved going to yard sales and Goodwills. She made that an adventure and had fun. Matter of fact, every vacation we ever went on, I think we went to a Goodwill. That's part of it. But she loved getting those bargains, and her and Nathan and Rachel, they would all pretend like they had different accents out of different countries when they're at yard sales, And I think it was Nathan and her one time, it was a church yard sale, and it said, they thought this was the church. They said, well, it must be in here. And they opened the doors to go in, and there was a wedding going on. The bride and the groom, the preacher, and everybody in the wedding looked back at them like, excuse us. But what they did, just laughed about it. Just laugh and have a good time. Whenever we would have people over, she said, oh, this is good. We're having people over. It means we get to get the house clean. She looked at it in a positive way instead of a negative way. Cleaning the house was a good thing. And Sandy and I did a lot of marriage seminars all around the country. And we wrote a skit one time to describe money in the bank. And I don't know if you know the idea about money in the bank. When you do something kind or good for your spouse or anybody, that's like making a deposit. But when you're a smart aleck or you do something negative, you're making a withdrawal. Now the main thing for happiness in marriage is to make more deposits than you make withdrawals. Some people don't seem to get that. So we decided to write a skit about that. And so we said, all right, we're going to do it when we date, then when we first get married, then when we have kids, and then when we're old. And so we're saying, all right, first we're going to do it. I come home and you're happy to see me. So Sandy, she just writes it in her mind. She runs and jumps in my arms, and we kiss this long, passionate kiss. Well, that became something we did in every seminar. That was the funnest thing they loved. They don't remember anything, but she jumped in my arms. But that's the kind of woman she was. She loved to have fun, and that made life easier. You're going to have trouble, yeah. And there's serious times, of course there is. But sometimes we got to find ways to have fun and enjoyment. We sang on television one time. We had a lady that lived near us that went to a church in downtown Wilmington, but it snowed that day. So she came to our church out in the suburbs. And we sang, Sandy and I sang especially. She said, I want you to sing that on my TV show next week. She had a show called Millie's Hats. This was a little local TV station in Wilmington, Delaware. And I don't know what time at night it was, right after our service. I want you to come and sing on our show. We said, okay. So of course we told everybody, we announced it. Now make sure you turn on Channel 2, Wilmington Channel 2 tonight, and watch us sing. Well, that was a mistake. We should not have told anybody. But we got on there, and we were ready, and it was Millie's Hat, so she was interviewing someone to talk about Millie's Hat. She said, now, I want to have Reverend and Mrs. Chitwood sing for us. But right off the bat, we're trying not to laugh because she just called us Chitwood, but that's all right. And so we're ready to sing, and everybody, the TV's on. And the guy in the sound room, he hit play on the tape, but he forgot to hit the switch that made the sound come out to us. So we got dead air. We're standing there looking stupid, and no music's playing. And so finally I said, well, let's see if we can sing it from memory. And we started to sing, and the music came on. Then he hit it in the middle of the song. And so she said, okay, we'll get that later on in the program. So, so then later on in the program, she introduced us again. And they had two cameras, and one had a light and one didn't, because one was on. And so the whole song, Sandy looked at the dead camera, and I looked. So the whole song, she's looking over here, And we found that out later. So after the half-hour show, we walked outside the studio, and we literally fell down on the sidewalk laughing. Because what are you going to do? Our only time on TV, and it went bust. But so what? We had a great time out of it. And what I'm saying is, this is a superpower. To be able to look at life and say, I'm still going to have joy because I know God, I am forgiven, and there's a lot of good things in my life, and I'm going to have an attitude that says, I'm going to have a good time when I come to church. I'm going to have a good time when I meet with other people in life. I'm going to find something to be joyful about. Every once in a while, we have, and I'm sorry, guys, but I have it on my phone as the old guys group. And we'll have lunch together. And we don't discuss anything earth-shaking, but we just have fun just sitting there talking and eating. And sometimes the two other preachers in our church and me will have breakfast together. And sometimes we'll invite Tom too. And we'll just sit there, and here's what I'm going to say about them. It's not that they've never had any trouble in their lives or grief. If you know them, you know better than that. But two joyful guys. And we have fun when we get together for breakfast, even though there's been hard times in life. You see what I'm saying, and you know what I'm saying. We need to find a way to rejoice and have a good time, even when we've had trouble. There's good things in that life, in this life. And we know God, and so we will make it a priority to find ways to rejoice. The R, the second superpower, is real. I had this different times in cards for Sandy. She's genuine. And she was. She was the real deal. She didn't put on, try to impress you, make out she was more than she was. She was real. She was genuine. Look in Romans 12. Don't just to pretend to love others. Really love them. That goes along with our song. Hate what is wrong. So you can love somebody while you don't like all the things they do. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with a genuine affection. And I hope that we all have a genuine love for others and not a put on. Now, I don't claim that we had a perfect marriage or a perfect ministry or perfect children, because we didn't. Nobody does. And there's no use putting that on. But the good thing I like about Sandy was she's spoken a lot of retreats, just by women's retreats, and she would tell on herself. She would say, I have struggles. And she would tell things she did. When we moved to Newcastle, Delaware, she was a 23-year-old pastor's wife. First time to learn what it means to be a pastor's wife. And a lady in our church, a sweet older lady in the church, brought us a dish of food. I think, if I remember, it was spaghettis, but instead of skinny noodles, it was with them those big noodles. And I looked at it and said, no thanks, I don't want it. Because you can ask my children, I don't like those big noodles, they remind me of cow veins. And so, not that I see that many cow veins, but that's what I think of. And so she went and gave that to our neighbor, our old neighbors, the Howes. And of course they ate it, they loved it. So Miss Edie came to Sandy next week, she said, how'd you like that? Oh, it was delicious, Sandy said. So, this is a story she tells herself, which is why I tell it. But then she said, I couldn't rest after that. I felt guilty. I lied to her. And every time I'd see her in church, I'd say, oh no. So finally, a couple of weeks, she went to her and said, Miss Edie, I got to tell you, we didn't eat that. We gave it to our neighbors. Oh, honey, that doesn't matter. I don't care. Sandy apologized to her. She didn't care, and she said a weight was lifted off her. But my point is this. She would tell on herself because she was real, because she was genuine. And you know, people don't want fake people. They want real, genuine people. And that's what we can be. And we can have real, genuine love, which is a little harder, but we can do that. Jesus was real, but joyful when he said this. And I'm paraphrasing John 16:33. The night before he was crucified, he said, in this world, guys, you're going to have trouble. But cheer up. I have overcome the world. You see what Jesus did? Jesus was real and had joy at the same time. If you can go ahead and be real and know, yes, this is a world of trouble and suffering and hurt, and I'm not putting on when I tell you we can get through this together, and yet know that God is coming and He's going to take away the curse and He's going to make all things anew again, and you can have both of those together, you have superpower. When you can have both of those together, to be real with joy. And that's exactly what Jesus in the Bible wants us to do. We need those. And you can help other people have victory. The first E is empathy. Empathy. Romans 12, one of my favorite verses, be happy with those who are happy. So simple. And weep with those who weep. And in 1 Corinthians 12, if one part suffers, now that's where it talks about the Christian church being a body. We're all together. If one part suffers, all parts suffer with it. And if one part is honored, all the parts are glad. Just as a body, you know, if your hand hurts, your throat hurts, then you hurt. So this is the way the body's supposed to be. We have empathy. I looked it up and put it in just to make sure I had it. Empathy is the psychological identification with, or the vicarious experiencing of, the emotions, thoughts, and attitudes of another. Or as somebody said, you walk a mile in their shoes. You try to understand what's going on with them. Because something's going on with everybody. And sometimes you find out that when you think somebody's angry and they come in a little short with you and snippy, it's not you at all. It's something else that's going on in their lives. And you try to comprehend that and you have a little bit more understanding, a little bit more care about them instead of just writing them off because they were snippy to you. You have empathy with somebody who is going through suffering. Now, I like that verse where it said, you're happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep. You're not happy with those who are weeping. Now, let me say this. When Sandy first died, here's what I didn't need. Oh, it's going to be all right, brother. Everything's going to be all right. You know what I wanted somebody to do? Be sad with me. That's what I wanted. I need you to be sad with me. I'm sad. I need somebody to be sad with me. You know what? That's what you did. You were sad with me. And you know what that did? That helped. I needed that. My friends at other places, they were sad with me. Weep with those who weep. Because one part of the body suffers, we're all sad. That's what the Bible says. That is empathy. And that is a superpower to help people. To have that kind of empathy. And that made a difference in my grief. And working and coming and moving through that grief. Not that it's over with. And this is the way my wife was. As a matter of fact, she was super in empathy. I've never seen anybody like her, who was always thinking about somebody else. I know, because she wore me out with it. We lay down at night to go to bed. I'm reading. We both read every night. I'm ready to read and go to sleep, and she's over there. Well, what do you think about how they're doing? We need to help them. What can we do for them? She's over there thinking about people. I'm trying to go to sleep. You know, and so she was always like that in everything, all day and night. She's thinking, and I guarantee that included you. She was thinking about what you were going through. See, maybe we can pray with them right now. Or how can we help them? And even at the last year of her life, she was thinking about it. Even the last weeks of her life. We would go to the oncology for treatment, and she's asking the nurses how they're doing, and how did your daughter do who fell and had that accident? And she knows everything, the girl's name and what happened to her. While she's having cancer treatment. And I told this at the funeral when the cancer doctor came and gave us the sad news on Monday, 2 days before she died, that the cancer had spread to 4 parts of her body. And we were both crying. He says, I'll give you a minute. And we were there crying about that in the room. And she says, well, wouldn't you hate to be him and have to give this news to everybody else? She's thinking about him. I didn't care about him. But she did. The last night she was alive, when she was in and out of it with her medicine, she was praying for people in here. She was praying for Kenya. She was praying some of your names as she lay dying. That is above me, okay? I'll never probably achieve that, but my thing is, we do need more empathy. It is a superpower to try to get in to see what they're going through and how we can help them. She was praying for her kids, talking about her kids, about her friends, about her grandkids. And this is powerful because we all want somebody to understand us. We all want somebody to listen to us. We all want somebody to be on our side, to care about what goes on in our life. We can't do that for everybody. We can do it for some people. To listen and help if we can. That is powerful. To have empathy for what, and I can name names here, for what these people are going through, to have empathy in their lives. And the last one is encouragement. 1 Thessalonians 5. Encourage each other and build each other up, just as you're already doing. And I kept that just as you're already doing in here because you are doing it. You and other people that are not here today. We have a lot of encouragers, and that's a good thing. And you've encouraged me, and you've encouraged others. And Sandy was an encourager. I don't know if it's a secret or not, but a lot of preachers think about quitting every Monday. That night before COVID, that's just the way it's part of the job. You go back over Sunday and say, oh, such and such wasn't here. And I messed up on a sermon. And I said something I shouldn't have said. I was the way I said it, and I forgot to talk to them. And you're thinking about every mistake you did. And Sandy's what helped keep me going for 45 years because she was such an encourager. She had a habit that as we drove home, she would say 1 or 2 good things about the sermon. She didn't give me a critique. Well, you should have done this. She knew I did that to myself already. So she always said 1 or 2 good things to me on the way. I like the way that story you told, or that point you made. Every Sunday. She was not in church the last Sunday she was alive. It was a picnic we had in June. She couldn't walk, so she couldn't come. But the Sunday before that, she was in church here. She said, don't tell the people how much I'm hurting. She was hurting bad already. She said, don't tell them. And as we left service, I don't know if you remember, if you were here that day, we had prayer with her. And then we got in the car, we drove, and she started giving me encouragement. A couple of things she liked in the sermon. The last Sundays she's in church, she was encouraging. Because that was her habit to do. And we need, God help us, we need more encouragers. And you guys, many in here, I could start talking about different people in here, how you've encouraged me, and I've seen you encourage others. That's what he said there first. You keep doing that. You're building people up with your encouragement to tell them the good things that are happening, the good things that can happen, how God is working. There's a time to confront evil, I know that. But God help us to be encouraging. Your encouragement, my encouragement, could mean the difference on whether somebody quits or not. Whether they quit their marriage. Whether they quit church, whether they quit their job, their ministry, whether they quit on Jesus, or even life. Your encouragement can make a difference. Whether somebody would kill themselves, whether they say, I've had it with God. And if you don't, you know some people, that's where they are. I've had it with God. I've had it with church. And my encouragement and your encouragement can make the difference in their lives, which is why it is a superpower. We can use the powers God has given us to be present there for people and not just stay home all the time by ourselves. To be forgiving, to be thankful, to be joyful, to be real, to be empathetic, to be encouraging. When we use these powers, these abilities, these opportunities that God has given us, we will make a difference for good and God for now and eternity. I really believe that.